welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, here with the well-rested Bob Rose, who just got finished doing a marathon, no less. Well, did you watch your wife and your son do that?
I would be lying if I said I did the marathon. Wife Lauren did the half marathon for the fourth consecutive year. That race was on Sunday. I participated in the kids marathon with Will, but the kids marathon is a 1 mile run.
Okay.
But I didn't prepare for it at all. Even in my athletic prime, I trained for sprints, hurdles, explosive things, jumps, volleyball. So this man never ran a mile. Unless it was a warm up, a couple of warm up laps. So I'm proud to say that about a third of the way into it, my calves started screaming, and I thought to myself, "Oh no!" But I ended up powering through okay. We finished strong, and as you know, I'm a smoker, and I wasn't even breathing heavy. So I'm proud of that.
There would have been something explosive, all right, if I tried to run a marathon. I tell you that, even a 1 mile marathon. I don't know which end would it be coming out of, but there'd be something coming out. That's for sure.
No, and give Lauren credit because she her half marathon is 13.1 miles, but she ran the kids mile the day before, so she logged 14.1 miles that day or that weekend as well.
Yeah, I'm just not built for running anymore. I really am not. My legs can't do it. I'd like to think I can still bicycle, 13 miles, 14 miles. I'd have to build up endurance, though. I probably could do about maybe 3 or 4 miles, and then I got to be coming back. It's got to be like a mile and a half there and a mile and a half back.
Right.
Yeah, that's about all I can do because that'll be what's driving me to finish that. So the other news that happened over this weekend, obviously, is Derek Carr announcing his retirement from the NFL. Evidently, this shoulder injury is serious enough that his recovery may take into next season. And it sounds like he just doesn't want to go through the surgery. Mm-hmm. I said Saturday it sounded like something between what Drew Brees had and maybe what Greg Cook had, because Greg Cook actually tried playing with it.
Yeah,
it's a damage to his rotator cuff and some degenerative muscle in his shoulder, in his passing shoulder, which I can totally relate because since I broke my arm and they did that surgery on me, my shoulder's not the same. I've lost strength in this arm. It's this right arm. I can't throw a spiral to save my life. It just, and I used to be able to just chuck a ball, and I've got the tendonitis in my elbow is all gone from surgery and everything, so I can still throw without that giving way. But it's an ugly duck now. It's got ears like you would not believe. And I used to be able to throw, even with a Nerf, I used to be able to just throw picture perfect spirals, and I can't. So I'm also 57. Carr is a lot younger than me, but Carr is 34, 35. Mm-hmm. He is going to be looking at 35, 36 years old coming back. Not having a job in New Orleans, coming off a shoulder surgery, doesn't know how it's going to turn out. Who's going to want to buy or pay a 35, 36-year-old quarterback with a bad shoulder? Drew Brees is 27.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Carr is at the end of his career. So I think that's probably my biggest takeaway of this is, people like, how could he leave $30 million on the table? I think that's a separate discussion, but I don't believe he's coming back. I just don't think he's going to come back. Now, they showed some video he had with his kids where he's running and that kind of stuff. 2 days after had surgery on my arm, broken arm. I, I took the sling off. Now, the doctor fussed at me for that, but you can't tell shoulder injuries by just daily activity.
No.
It's when you try and reach behind you, for example, to do
Mm-hmm.
this. I couldn't do that. Pick up something from back here. I couldn't do that.
Nope.
That's where it comes into play. I tried to throw a football 6 months after the surgery, and it was killing me. It hurt. It hurt like you wouldn't believe. And it's scar tissue that builds up, all these things. So people who sit there and look at him and go, oh, well, look at him running around out there with his kids. Look at him do these things. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with him. You don't know this because
Right.
injuries show up differently on people. So I'm going
Yep.
to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he had the conversation with the Saints and he had the conversation with his doctors. And his doctors said, we can do the surgery. I don't know if you can keep playing. That's going to be up to you and how dedicated you are to work and rehabilitate your shoulder and get you back to the way you were before. And the Saints told him point blank, you don't have a job here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to release you next year at the earliest, unless you want to try and make a decision on this.
Yeah.
So I think that conversation told him he was gone. And he decided that, you know what? I'm not going to have the surgery. I can live with this pain. I can do my daily activities, and it's different from preparing my life for football. So I'm going to retire. And that's where I think the money comes into play. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything that you said. I mean, the Carr haters too, saying, he's only 34. Guys are playing until they're 40 now. A few guys have played until they were 40. That's still the rare exception rather than the rule. And the same people that are saying, Carr's not even hurt, he's running around, goofing off with his kids. Those are the same people that are saying, the Saints should tank for a draft pick. These are the type of people that have never played an organized sport in their life, or if they did, they sucked at it. I've had shoulder surgery twice myself, and as a volleyball player, you have a lot of the same arm motions that a baseball pitcher has, that an NFL quarterback has, and any orthopedic will tell you those are unnatural motions for your elbow and your shoulder. And it takes, on my second shoulder surgery as a rotator cuff, I had 19 months of rehabilitation before I was able to step back onto the volleyball court. Now, part of that was because on my first shoulder surgery, they said, oh, you'll be out about 6 weeks. I took 2 off. And then after that, it deteriorated quickly, with another injury mounted on top of that. Just, it causes me a heap of problems to this day. Like you, the only way I could throw a football in a spiral is if I throw it Bernie Kosar style, kind of at 3/4 motion. I can't do anything work above my head, even holding this pen. It's not the weight, it's just the motion and the angle. If I hold it above my head for any more than like 5 minutes, the arm goes completely dead and like drops on me. So those are the kind of things that even Drew Brees after his surgery is looking at later in life. Derek Carr, with or without surgery, probably looking at later in life. And like you said, Alan, Carr is probably looking at the global aspect of the situation, realizing he doesn't have a home with New Orleans, probably not wanting a home in New Orleans anyway.
Yeah.
Looking around the league at the young quarterbacks that are already in the league, the next couple waves of draft picks that are going to be coming in, just weighing his options. When we hear players saying, I'm going to talk to my family and weigh my options, these are the kind of things, exact kind of things things that they're talking about. What kind of surgeries and and things do I have to go through just to get back on the field? Is it worth it for quality of life later on? My kids, Derek Carr's kids, are still little.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be a crippled dad playing out there in the yard with them or anything like
No.
that. Anybody throwing spears, the proverbial spears at Derek Carr, please, let the man be a human being. I get you hate him. You hate him as a football player. Has caused you to hate him as a human being, but let him live life as a human now. And no, I agree with you. I can't see him playing football ever again.
Yeah, I don't think there's a job for him because of the things
Mm-hmm.
you just said. I think that's part of the conversation he had with his agent and with his family. That it's going to be hard for you to find a job. There may be one, but it may be something like what the Saints are doing. We're going to draft a guy and we want you to come in to be the veteran mentor. But you as a starter in this league, starting 17 games if you're healthy, that just isn't there anymore because um, there's too many young quarterbacks coming out and too many teams have decided that we want to do the young quarterback route, the cheap rookie contract, while we figure out what we're going to do. Because even if the Saints bomb this pick and Tyler Shough is not the guy, they're not going back to Carr. They're going to go get another quarterback next year in a much better draft class. So, that was your last contract you got from the Saints.
Yes.
So, you either decide you're going to rehab and hope for a backup job or retire. And he chose the retirement. Now, the $30 million, you've got several former players. Ross Tucker was one. Scott Shanley came out and said something. I read that yesterday, yesterday was Monday. I read that yesterday as well. Why do you think Carr went ahead and said, I'll just take my $10 million and run, not keep the guaranteed $40 million? Didn't fight the Saints on that, I should say.
Well, because if he would have stuck and delayed his retirement until into training camp or into the regular season, the Saints would have undoubtedly fought to get part or perhaps all of that contract back. And given the medical records, at least the ones that we know about publicly, I think that New Orleans would have stood a good chance at recouping most of that money with Carr. And I believe that behind closed doors, Carr has kept the Saints abreast of the situation the entire time. All parties knew, Carr, his people, the Saints, their people, Kellen Moore, they all knew what was going on. Just because it wasn't disclosed to the public wasn't meaning that Carr was keeping any secrets or the Saints were keeping any secrets. I think everybody knew, Carr knew that the Saints were looking to draft a quarterback and that they didn't have long-term interest in him. The Saints knew that Carr was injured. These guys undergo physicals as soon as the season is over as well, because team doctors want to know what, and this, Alan, team doctors want to know what kind of surgeries returning players are going to be facing. That's part of what goes into, okay, who do we release to create cap space? Who's going to be a wounded duck? Who's on the downside of their career? Rapid downside in the case of some injuries or age deterioration. So I truly believe that all sides were aware of what the other parties were doing. And that's part of the reason why the Saints made the decision that they did to restructure Carr's contract. Yes, it caused them or created immediate cap space for this year. But as it turned out with Carr's retirement, because it won't become official until after June 1st. Therefore, it's going to allow him, and the Saints were probably very willing to say, "Here's $10 million in signing bonus, roster bonus, whatever, it's yours, Derek. We'll have you on the books for $30 million, which will be able to spread out the remainder of over a couple of years to basically make the cap hit minimal, and the rest of your contract just kind of disappears there in the wind as soon as you retire, file those retirement papers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think his agent probably told him, says, listen, this is the same team that went through this situation with Nick Fairley a few years ago, when Nick Fairley tried to hide his heart condition from the Saints. His doctors had told him, look, man, this heart condition is pretty serious. If you go out and play football, you could have a massive heart problem on the field, or just getting in shape to play football. And he tried to hide that from him. The Saints had just extended him because his heart condition was an irregular heartbeat, if I remember right. But it was something along those lines. So it's not picked up in a regular physical. You have to do special, because I remember the whole conversation Saints fans had back then going, oh, my God, how did you not see this happen?
Right.
And I think because of the Fairley incident, that's why, if you remember that, I think he was either a punter or a long snapper. Who was that guy we got from the Eagles? He was a magician, too. I want to say he was a long snapper, but he might have been. I think
you're right. No, I think he was a long snapper.
Yeah.
He was a bigger guy.
Yeah. And now they do those tests where they found this guy had a heart condition, and it was something similar to Nick Fairley. And they told Nick Fairley, they told this guy, hey, you better go. You might want to retire because you have a serious condition. So they've started to do that deeper physical. And no doubt they were doing the same thing with Carr. It's not so well. Yeah, he wasn't a good fit, but his coach is gone. The guy who wanted him is gone. So he fit whatever Dennis Allen was trying to build, but Dennis Allen is gone. So yeah, I get that, and fans want a new start. I get that too, sure, because we haven't been winning. The Carr haters are the ones that Bob and I talk about, are the ones that Carr can't do anything right, and it becomes personal with him. Look, there are Aaron Brooks haters out there. There were Jimmy Graham haters out there. Junior Gillette, Brandon Browner, the kid they got, number 42. We got him from the Colts, the cornerback. Jason David, Tassucky Jones. You can go down the list. Players who didn't win for the Saints and cost the Saints a lot of money. I'm not. There's a lot of mistakes that you make, and I think because Carr had the DA stink all over him, and his personality just did not jibe with a lot of Saints fans.
Yeah, he needed better PR for sure.
Well, sure. Everything he did was wrong. And you look at Tyler Shough, and everything he's doing is right. First thing he does, he has dinner at Drago's. He doesn't go to Chipotle. He embraces the city. He tells fans he wants to die on the field for them. He blew out a tire in a pothole because he played the game Puddles or Potholes in New Orleans and lost. I'm not saying that Carr doesn't deserve any of the hate. When we say haters, though, we're really talking about people who go after him personally.
Yeah.
And call him out about non-football things,
or just twist every tiny little thing.
That's really who we're talking about. Because, like I said, I've seen it with a dozen or so players that I just rattled off, and there'll be more. There will always be players that the fans just despise. Brandon Cooks got it for a while because Cook said, closed mouths don't get fed. He was mad he wasn't getting the ball enough in that blowout win over the Rams. And fans like, all right, out of here. You go out. You're out the door. So knew that was something I wrote about Derek Carr. In fact, when he announced his retirement I think on Twitter, I said Derek Carr acted like New Orleans is just like any other NFL city, especially a major NFL city like the Rams or Miami or Los Angeles. I mean, not Los Angeles, New York. One of those kind of towns. You can't act like that here. This is too. New Orleans is too much of a small town, even though it's a city. And that doesn't mean the other cities' fans aren't passionate about their players, but the saying you have to embrace New Orleans for New Orleans to embrace you. Teddy Bridgewater riding his bike, to games. Alvin Kamara did the same thing. Jameis Winston running around the city during Super Bowl week doing goofy interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Brees just being Drew Brees. Okay. The city expects you to behave a certain way, like you're a fan of the city. And Carr was never that kind of person. And Carr just couldn't figure that out. They want you to, even though you're not really from here, they want you to buy a house here, especially if you're a quarterback. Do like the Mannings did. You got to buy a house here. You got to put your kids at Newman. Drew Brees did that. Drew Brees had his house, I think, in Audubon Place for a while. Well, it was on the other side of the park by Audubon Park. And he was getting too many people putting stuff in front of his house, notes on his door and stuff like that. And he's like, I like y'all, but y'all creeping me out. We're going to go to a gated community in Audubon Place where y'all can't get to me. But his kids went to Newman when he was here in town. They also went to school in San Diego. That's the kind of stuff that you got to do. And I don't know if Tyler Shough's going to do that. He seems to be on that path. He's got a wife already. I don't know where he's going to make his in-season home, but that's what they want to see out of a Saints player here. If you're going to be in this home, if you're going to be the quarterback, you're going to be the leader of the city. Aaron Brooks lived out here in River Ridge. I know where his house was, in fact, but he didn't embrace the city, and that's part of the reason why people turned on him the way he did, the way they did.
Quinn Early told me a story one time about Jim Everett, and there was a group of them that always used to go out, a group of the Saints players at that time in the mid '90s used to go out trick or treating and just dress up as goofy different things. And one year Jim dressed up as a woman, and they went to a couple different bars in the quarter. But those are the kind of things that will ingrain yourself, like you said, Alan. Who Dat Nation views themselves as a family. Now, social media has splintered that family now. You have your wannabe GMs and your self-proclaimed experts, that bully everybody else. But I think at the core, I just got back from that Go Black and Gold charity fan cruise. Everybody on there, it felt like a family reunion, and I'd never met most of those people face to face, just online, and even the Saints players case. Just face-to-face interviews via video and things like that. But it felt like a family reunion. The first time my family met yours, Lauren and I met you and your family, it was like we've known each other our whole lives, and it was the first time we'd ever seen each other face-to-face. That's the kind of thing that ingrains yourself into the core Who Dat Nation. And like you said, Derek Carr either didn't or refused to accept that. And Aaron Brooks, the same thing. Doesn't mean that they weren't good players in their own right, but Carr failed under the heaping expectations that comes with being the second quarterback to follow the legendary Drew Brees. He failed to meet those expectations as a player, and then it just snowballed out of control, because of his I don't, abrasive personality is too strong, but eventually it came across as exactly that way.
It was aloof. He was aloof. He was
Mm-hmm.
a private person, and he, in his interviews, he gave off the aura of not taking responsibility for anything. If things go wrong, I did my job. Whereas Drew, and this is what fans came to expect. You got to realize it's been about a generation for Drew Brees. For fans who, even if you were, 10 years old in 2006, it's still considered a generation. He played 16 years with the Saints. Um, that you expected a guy to come up and take full responsibility, even though it wasn't his fault that they lost. Take full responsibility for the issues and say, I could have played it better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the defense gave the game away, but maybe if I play better, we don't put the defense in that situation. Well, that's totally unrealistic, but the fans appreciated that.
Yep.
Whereas, and this is the turning point in every relationship, I say Aaron Brooks, those last 3 games of 2002 season when he was obviously hurt, and Hazlitt kept putting him back in there, and they lost all 3 games. Then he had shoulder surgery 2 days after the season's over with, when the fans were all screaming for Jake Delhomme to win 1 game to go to the playoffs. Aaron Brooks, basically, the fans turned against him, and he never came out as saying, I understand the fans' issues. I understand what the problem is. We've got to play better. No, instead, the next year he's whining that his cousin Michael Vick's going to Pro Bowl, and he said, look at my stats. Much like Carr with look at the tape.
Mm-hmm.
Look at my stats. I should be in a Pro Bowl too. The fans are like, I don't want to hear that. I don't. This is not what I want. You smile after you throw freaking interceptions. And then in 2004, it's the backwards pass. So it's those kind of things. So yeah, you're the man following the man in Drew Brees, but you also have a personality that does not fit well with this city. So yeah. And the funny thing was, I was a big time Aaron Brooks defender. I defended him
Same.
for a long, long time
Yep.
because we never had a quarterback who could do the things he did when he was on. Now, I tried watching a game from 2003 against the Eagles, and oh my God, all of it came crashing back. I'm like, holy crap! It was it was 2nd and 2. We get a false start, so now it's 2nd and 7. They run a draw play with Deuce McAllister. He gets a first down, holding call. It's now 2nd and 17, and I went, oh my God. This is what it was. This is what it was. This is how, now I remember how frustrating these guys were. They get something going, and then they take 1 step forward, 3 steps back. You get to, they score a touchdown. It's early in the game. The Eagles had to settle for a field goal early in the game. They score a touchdown. And Hazlitt doesn't challenge it because the line judge, who had the clear view, showed that Deuce had broken the plane because he kept himself above the ground, broke the plane, scored a touchdown. Hazlitt doesn't challenge it because the line judge on the other side said, no, he got stopped early. Now you challenge it, you score. They go and run a similar play, except this time Brooks fumbles the center snap. He scoops it, tries to hand it to Deuce McAllister, who kicks it forward, and the ball goes in the end zone. Touchback, Eagles. The Eagles go down and score a touchdown and proceeds to blow out the Saints. And I had to turn it off by halftime. Now I know the Saints make a big comeback. Deuce has 2 incredible runs. I do remember that in that game. It was in the old in Lincoln Financial Field when it first opened. But man, it was so painful to watch because there's so many stupid things they do. So many self-inflicted wounds. And I said, that's the kind of stuff that pissed the fans off more than anything else when it came to the Hazlitt and Brooks era. Just having to live through the stupid mistakes that they would do, just like not thinking, offsides, false starts, left and right, it just, yeah. So we turn the page now to Tyler Shough. Not Saints Twitter, but national Twitter was really pissing me off on Saturday because they acted like, oh, the Saints didn't expect Derek Carr to retire. They thought he might play this year. They got a problem. They need a quarterback now.
They need Aaron Brooks.
They need Aaron Rodgers, not Aaron Brooks. Close enough.
Yeah,
Aaron
sorry.
Yeah, they should trade with the Browns and get one of their quarterbacks they got out there. RG3 said they got 3 nobodies. I'm like, well, wait a minute. They just drafted one of those nobodies at pick 40. I thought we were rebuilding. If we would have gone out and signed Aaron Rodgers before the draft, people would have been like, what the hell are you doing? Are you trying to run it back again? This is how you get in salary cap problems. So what is it? Either you go with a rookie or you sign a veteran to be a starter. What do you want, national media? What do you expect us to do? Yeah. I'd rather have Aaron Brooks too.
Yeah, no doubt. Meanwhile, you have Shedeur Sanders, a 5th round pick, remember. They're following his every move. Shedeur sees the Browns practice facility for the first time. Pictures all over the place of Shedeur Sanders looking at his locker in the Browns facility. What the hell? It's a 5th round pick. If you do that with the 1st overall pick, I'm still going to roll my eyes because it's ridiculous. But yeah, you expect that, especially when that 1st overall pick is a quarterback. This is a 5th round pick. Yeah, the Saints have nobody as a quarterback.
I haven't seen anything on Cam Ward. They have not said us. They have not. I don't know who his jersey number is. I'm assuming it's 1. Warren Moon gave him. Excuse me. Warren Moon gave him the okay to use 1, but you wouldn't know it because I have not seen a single thing on Cam Ward. Nothing.
Nope. You'd honestly thought that Shedeur Sanders was the only quarterback in the NFL draft.
And it's a rookie minicamp. He's throwing to fellow rookies and tryout guys. Myles Garrett's not out there. No. Jerry Judy's not out there. Now they will be, but for rookie minicamp, there's none. He poses a picture with all those guys at that camp, that rookie minicamp, and they're like, look, he's already the leader of the team. He's half those guys going to be out there driving delivery trucks this week. They're NFL. They might get in the UFL. But their NFL dreams are pretty much over, those tryout players, because we had the same damn thing in our place.
Yeah.
Some clown, Spencer Ratt was out there throwing to Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And, Chuck's out there throwing to Peebles and, guys. I'm like going, well, yeah, because he hasn't signed his contract yet. He's not officially a member of the team yet. You'll see some of that in the OTAs, but you won't see anything of that until at least the June full mini camp.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I just it was maddening. It was maddening because and shorts and shells. That's the worst part too. I fell for that stuff a long time ago. Look at Shough looks like he's a pretty good quarterback out there. Look at him throw out there with them guys, 7-on-7 drills. Look at that. That's a pretty spiral he threw. Yeah. Then the real game started, it was just overreaction weekend. And it really was pissing me off that how the media was beating this drumbeat that, yeah, the Saints need a quarterback, Saints need a quarterback, Saints need a quarterback. I said, no, they don't. They do need a veteran. I will give them that. They do need a true veteran on the team, but not a guy who's bucking to be a starter. You give me a Carson Wentz or somebody who can be in that quarterback room and be a sounding board. Andy Dalton is great for that. Andy Dalton's locked up with the Panthers, but I mean that kind of guy. And yeah, that's the agendas, Anna. That's the agenda because they passed on Sanders. That's why the Saints are being punished. You know, if they would have taken Sanders, believe me, they'd had all the cameras there, just like Ricky Williams, and they would have been all about how the Sanders era starts now.
Yep.
Not that, oh, the Saints need a veteran quarterback. Oh, Saints have the worst quarterback room in the NFL. Have you seen Pittsburgh lately? Do you see what they got going on over there? You know, and I like Will Howard, but you got Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed quarterback, and Skylar Thompson and Will Howard. That's their quarterback room. You know, that's a lot worse shape than this one.
Oh yeah, but, Steelers have the worst quarterback room in the league. The Jets, awful quarterback room. The Raiders. I'm not a Geno Smith believer, so the Raiders, awful quarterback room. The Seahags. I'm a Sam Darnold hater. I admit it. The Seahags have a bad quarterback room. The Vikings still have no idea what you have in J.J. McCarthy, who we all laughed at on the draft show last year when they drafted him in the first round, and we're like, oh my God, this is like a 5th round pick going in the first. The Vikings job belongs to J.J. McCarthy now, and we can look throughout that. Yeah, there's a lot of question marks in the Saints quarterback room, but there are at least 3 or 4 teams that I would prefer to have the Saints guys than their guys.
I mean, it's not ideal. I give them that, and like Hemisphere said, Rattler went 0 for 6, so I can understand the media like going, that's kind of scary. That's your most experienced quarterback on this roster. Hayner couldn't even finish a half. They had to pull him because he was that bad. Not a half, but a game. He only played a half. That's how bad he was out there, and he was bad. So, you're going to put a rookie out there who was not the preseason, pre-draft top 3 quarterback. He suddenly caught on fire once analysts began talking to NFL GMs and scouts and saying, we know about Sanders, we know about Ward, we know about Dart, but there's this kid Tyler Shough out there who looks damn good. If it wasn't for his age and probably his injuries that he got at Texas Tech, he'd probably be the number 2 quarterback on everyone's board. And that's when, and I think it's because that talk happened in late February and March, people just did not get behind that. So that kind of feeds that whole, this guy's not, it's kind of a reach. Who knows if he's going to make it? Most 26-year-old second rounders don't make it, that kind of thing. So I get that. And the other thing is the Saints didn't draft a lot of skill players. They didn't go out there and get receivers. They didn't get Tyler Warren, the big tight end. They had a very workman-like draft. You and I talked more and more about that draft for those 3 days and that following Tuesday than anything else. It felt like you missed some players because you went for a certain type. So it's not an exciting draft where you can sit there and go, okay, that guy's going to be a difference maker. That guy's going to be a difference maker. So I get the feeling, but at the same time, this is what a rebuild looks like, and the Saints need help everywhere. So What can you tell me though about this quarterback they signed that tried out this past weekend? My understanding was he had a legal issue, and that was part of the reason why he was out of the league.
That was the whole reason why he was out
Yeah.
of the league. Hunter Decker's left-handed quarterback, which kind of makes me chuckle because Kellen Moore is a left-handed quarterback,
Yeah.
was a left-handed quarterback. But Hunter Decker succeeded Brock Purdy at Iowa State. Was the starter for the Cyclones in 2022, led the Big 12 in completion percentage, which was a big feat because he also led the conference in passing attempts and completions. So in other words, he led in completion percentage while throwing a high volume of passes. Now, and I think he was second in the conference in passing yardage. Now he's a gunslinger. He also led the conference in 2022 in interceptions. He's not afraid to throw it into coverage. Big kid, moves pretty well. It's always tough to break down the mechanics because when you're looking at a left-handed quarterback, because even me as a coach, I have to reverse everything, and it just kind of throws my perspective off. But he was trending to be probably a potential early day three prospect, maybe slip into day two. But after 2022, he was suspended for a year for gambling. He was indicted, not allegations. He was indicted.
So we got an Art Schlichter from
Art Schlichter, yes.
Schlichter, yeah. I couldn't think of his name, but yeah.
Him and a couple other players on, a couple other Iowa State athletes. I do not recall whether they were football players or athletes on other sports, but they were on, I believe it was FanDuel, but don't quote me on that one. They were on FanDuel and they made up names for accounts to bet on Iowa State football, other Iowa State sports. And that is a big no-no for the NCAA. So he was out of football for a year.
So you tell me he didn't do what Calvin Ridley did and use his own friggin' name?
No, he at least used a different name. He was indicted. I don't know whatever came of it because he did play last year for a community college in Iowa. I'm not aware of the statistics because I'm not that damn good to look up community college statistics, unless they're in my own state. Hunter Deckers went undrafted because we'll call it our Schlichter syndrome.
Yeah. It's so funny because Art and Pete Rose both they, because of the attitude about gambling, especially on your own games, and you're betting against yourself, really. You're not point shaving like the Tulane basketball program or anything like that, but you are gambling. But at the same time, the league is sponsored. Okay. All right. Okay, then. One of the things I was going to go into the story I was going to talk about later tonight is the Titans and the Saints were supposedly playing on opening day in Tennessee. Well, that actually is not true. The Titans will be playing the Broncos opening day. So I was hoping to get a replay of the Miami Louisville game because it had been Cam Ward versus Tyler Shough, but that won't be the case. Oh, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, because the league is so wrapped up in gambling now between FanDuel and BetMGM and all these things that provide tremendous revenue for the league.
It's even fantasy football.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to next. Fantasy football, with the gambling they're encouraging with fantasy football. And honestly, that's what is driving revenues and attention. You have a lot of people talking about how, well, I'm out. I'm not going to any more Saints games. I'm not going to watch these guys and stuff like that. We'll have to boycott games and let the stadium get full of opposing fans until Mickey Loomis gets fired. Well, you're not going to hurt their pocketbook because their
No.
pocketbook is now getting filled by gambling. So it's ironic that players like Pete Rose and Art, well, Art is a gambling addict.
Oh yeah.
They've tried to. He's gone to prison. He's gone to addiction counseling, and he can't stay away from it. So he has a serious problem. But Pete Rose, on the other hand, um, Pete Rose bet on his own games, bet to win, and he admitted it. Didn't bet on other games, and he still has been. Well, I think I think the baseball league is actually going to reinstate him now that he's dead. Is going to actually reinstate him to get him on the roadmap to getting into Cooperstown. I think they're going to do this. They haven't done it yet, but the talk is more and more because gambling has become so tied in with all sports. Because there's fantasy baseball too, and there's gambling on baseball that's encouraged all the time. And I always thought it was hypocritical anyway, the league, because you think about NFL today with Jimmy the Greek. Why was he called Jimmy the Greek?
Right.
Why, and what did he do for a living? He was a bookie, and he's on there going, I remember being as a kid watching this going, what does he mean by take the points? What does that mean? What points? Where are you taking them? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not gambling. Wink.
Yep. Pete Axthelm, known.
Pete Axthelm. All of them.
Yeah. He lacked the he lacked the mafia, Jimmy the Greek nickname. That's all.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing about that was, I just all of it. They would always talk about the teams that were favored and why were they favored and what's that mean to be favored. All I'm thinking about is, okay, who do you think's going to win?
Right.
But no, they're talking about, point stuff going on. And it always made me laugh because as now as an adult, and I know all these things, it's just gambling, like they said in The Godfather, gambling is a vice that people enjoy doing, but it doesn't really hurt people unless you don't pay. It doesn't hurt you like drugs and alcohol and things like that. That's why the mob was always so big into gambling, But yeah, now you can bet on everything, and they encourage it. They give you the fast disclaimer: if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800. That thing. It goes like 100 miles an hour. But FanDuel and BetMGM, and you get a free all this, and they go through all the thing in the end. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800. Always makes me laugh when you have to deal with that. So, all right, well, that kind of ruins, because I got it playing in the background right now. That kind of ruins my thing because I was hoping this was going to be the matchup. When I got playing in the background right now is Miami versus Louisville from last year. It was a shootout. It was 52-43. Both quarterbacks threw 4 touchdown passes. Both quarterbacks threw for over 300 yards. I think Shough threw for 359. Ward threw for like 312, something like that. Ward had the better completion percentage because every 10th pass, I think that Shough threw, the receivers dropped them. And I mean, hitting them between the 8 and the 1, that kind of thing, or hit them right there in the numbers. And it's a heck of a game. It really is. And I was really hoping,
I actually saw a lot of it.
Yeah, it was one of those games that, I think helped him get to being a high draft pick like this because, you really got to see what kind of quarterback he would be playing against another future NFL player. And it's unfortunate because that would have been a heck of an opening weekend to see two rookie quarterbacks go at it, especially with Dart also being a first round pick. But I mean, one of the first three quarterbacks, or two of the first three quarterbacks, facing each other off in their first game in the NFL. So that was proven false. But the thing that has been released by the league is there will be 7 international games in 5 different countries. The Minnesota Vikings get screwed over and go back-to-back weeks, I think, with 2 international games. What do you make of all these international games? I don't like getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning to watch a football game on NFL Network. The last time the Saints were they played Minnesota, I had forgotten all about it. And it's like 9:30. I'm like, oh shit, there's a Saints game on.
Right. I'm going to piss off you and I, the Under the Dome group, the Bayou Blitz group. We have a lot of international fan bases, fans. So every time this subject comes up, I piss them off, and I get comments in my inbox sometimes. But I'm not going to back off. What does the NFL stand for? National Football League, ladies and gentlemen.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I'm sorry.
Roger Goodell, you corrupt Nazi MFer.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
Knock it off. We know it's a money grab. We don't need, more, and just like there's no secret that Goodell is going to institute an 18th regular season game, just like there's no secret that Roger Goodell wants his Patrick Mahomes's and Tom Brady's and Peyton Manning's and Josh Allen's at the top of the heap year in and year out. Let's not pretend that there's not that his agenda is not putting a team in Mexico, putting a team in at least 2 teams in Europe.
Oh yeah, they once won in London for sure.
Yeah,
London and probably Berlin.
Yeah, I that's why I believe that there'll be 2. And I don't know whether they're doing it this year, but if not this year, I know next year they're going to be doing a regular season game in Paris. I hate it. I'm not against keeping the NFL away from international fans. I'm really not. But that's why there's internet. That's why there's television. Just like European and South American soccer, has the United States, America has soccer leagues, but it's separate from the European soccer leagues and the South America soccer leagues. So, Roger Goodell, you corrupt Nazi mother. If you want football back in Europe, that's fine. Play your exhibition games there. I'm okay with that. There was this thing not too long ago that was basically a development. You talk about it all the time. Developmental league for the NFL was NFL Europe. Yep. You can prop that up. You can get involved with the UFL. The UFL is failing once again in America. Because the football watching public is just stretched too thin. Mainly because the National Football League is now, a 10, 11 month event when you factor in free agency, the draft, and training camps, extravaganzas, and all that. That's why the UFL is failing again. It's not that it's not a good product; it's just that it's not good enough. So work with the UFL and do that kind of thing with European teams. Berlin, Barcelona, London, Rome.
Dragons.
Exactly.
All of them. The names of the teams.
Yep. And you have your opportunities there. Stop watering down the NFL just because your arrogant, moronic ass knows that my arrogant moronic ass is going to keep paying for the tickets and keep paying for the merchandise. Yeah, you got the money grab, but eventually when my moronic ass generation dies off, hopefully the moronic ass generation behind me, so I'm looking at you, Will and Brianna, and all you younger kids out there. Hopefully, as this product continues to get watered down, you'll come to your senses and stop giving Goodell's corrupt ass the money, until he betters the product that we're watching from Sunday to Sunday and from week to week. Like I said, I don't have a problem with football in Europe or South America. I don't have a problem with it at all, but not NFL football.
We got to play this while we're having this discussion here, because I mean, this is really what drives the whole thing. NFL Europe doesn't make that kind of money.
No.
Not compared to the NFL actual games. And my biggest problem with international games is the time zone difference. This takes a lot out of what is the league big on? The league and the players are big on routine. When you start having games where they have to go to Europe and they have to now travel multiple time zones, and London is, I think
it's 4, might be 6.
Yeah, I think it's close to 6. And now Germany, that's 8, 9-hour difference, time zone difference. It really messes with these players, and then they've got a game the following week. So you're going to have to start instituting multiple buys in seasons. Well, they don't like the networks don't like buys, because the networks want quality games every week. And it's I don't know. It bothers me because I think you get a less competitive game over there in Europe.
Right, it lowers the quality.
Yes. And that's why they were sending like the Jacksonville Jaguars over there seemingly multiple times. And the NFL Europe people like it, or the European NFL fans like it, because instead of seeing unknown quarterback, Spencer Rattler would be an NFL Europe kind of quarterback. Instead of seeing Spencer Rattler out there getting development, you get to see the Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, because I think the Ravens are going over there this year. All these, they get to see the stars, and that's what again, queuing up Pink Floyd's Money. That's what gets people in the stands.
And I get that. I get that you want to fill up stadiums. I get that you will fill up stadiums. But like you said before, when it comes to the Saints, for example, and all the people that go to one game every 2 years and are now saying they're not going to go to a game anymore and let it fill up with opposing fans. What do Gail Benson and Jerry Jones and the other owners care about that? Because most of their money is coming in through merchandising, TV. Internet and sponsors. Well, you still get all that from Europe and South America and Central America. So, again, you don't need. I get it. You international fans that are now pissed off at me. I get it. You can flood my inbox, with insults and something. I got the occasional threat too.
Viva kick your American ass.
But again, it's not meant as an insult to any other country. I really don't mean that at all. What Roger Goodell is doing is continuing to water down and lessen the product on the field and the product that we want to see. Now again, our dumbasses are going to continue to pay for the jersey that you're wearing and the Sunday ticket and all that. I'm hoping that the dumbasses behind us, after we start dying off or becoming too decrepit to go to these things and pay the money anymore, I'm hoping that the younger dumbasses are not as dumbassy.
Well, unfortunately, because of fantasy football and gambling, like we talked about earlier, that's what's going to drive the viewing and the attendance. People are going to watch. Like I can remember when I was a kid, Jets versus oh God, let's just pick any bottom feeder. Jets versus the Lions when the Lions were terrible. No,
and when you and I were growing up, the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, the Bay of Pigs, Tampa Bay and Green Bay. No one's going to watch that game, but they will now because they're going to watch for fantasy purposes, or they will because they bet on, so-and-so is going to get 4 players. Let's say this guy's going to throw for 2 touchdowns. This guy's going to rush for 100 yards and a touchdown. So they're watching for that. NFL Red Zone is popular because of that. Where they're not even watching the whole game. They're just watching the highlights because that's all they care about. The NFL, my dad gets mad because he said, what happens to people who don't have streaming services? You got an old antenna like I got. He does have an antenna, but he does have access to streaming service. I programmed his TV. So, but he does put the antenna on for the game because the antenna, especially when in New Orleans, the antenna gets the game a play ahead of streaming services. And the internet, if I'm following the game on Twitter, I know what's going to happen before even the antenna gets the game, the play, especially if it's at home. But, he's like, what's going to happen to all these people like me who don't have access to streaming services and want to watch the game on network TV, and all the games are now on Netflix and NFL Network and Amazon Prime. How are we going to watch football games? You're not. That's what's going to end up happening. They might have your local game.
Yep.
Might have an agreement with the local network station so you can see that game. But that's the future. That's where this is all going. And I should play the OJ's money right now, but that's where the league sees the money. They don't see the money on regular network TV anymore. They see it in expanding gambling, expanding games in other cities where, you have season tickets. You don't even get to see your own team at home because a home game is now in Mexico City.
Yeah.
A home game will now be in Tokyo, Japan, because that will come because Japan loves baseball. They know that they want to get them interested in football. So yeah, that'll be the future, and they don't care. Like you're seeing these crowd shots, but they don't care who's in those stands. All they care about is you're watching on TV, and the people in there, maybe all corporate people, are in there filling the stands, and that's all that matters. And it's a quote unquote home game, so yeah, it's, I got it all. I'm not bragging, but I do because my wife watches everything. My kids like to watch everything. So we have every streaming service known to man, I think. I don't want to tell you what my bill looks like at the end of the month. I just know when I put something on, they got Hulu, they got Amazon Prime, they got all of those things. So, yeah, I can see it. That's why I told my dad, you will always see a game. It doesn't matter. I will show you how to watch a game. But yeah, but that's the future because they know that. They know that's where people are going to go. People don't have cable anymore. Very few people have antennas. The only people who have antennas are older people, So
The dumbass generation ahead of our dumbass generation.
yes. um, exactly. So their attitude is, this is how we're going to hook in the young people. We're going to hook in by and that's why they do that Nickelodeon stupid thing in the playoffs of all things, where people get slimed and you have Patrick Star and SpongeBob doing the play-by-play. I'm surprised not the Fairy Odd Parents. I don't even know if they still exist, but that was something
they tried to bring them back, and I tried to watch it. It wasn't the same.
Yeah. So that's something from my kids' generation.
Oh, by the way, I would take SpongeBob and Patrick doing commentary over Tony Romo or Chris Collinsworth. So.
But that don't misunderstand that Nickelodeon thing is definitely in there to get young people to watch NFL football on Nickelodeon.
Yep.
So you will see NFL football more and more on. That's what the next television contract is going to be, and they've already taken Monday Night Football away. And I don't really watch Monday Night Football. I watch the Manning cast more than anything else. But Monday Night Football was on ABC, and it's now on ESPN, which was a cable network. Almost everybody has it now, so it's basically ABC. It's owned by the same company, Disney, and But yeah, the games they had on Christmas on Netflix. Don't underestimate that. That was a test.
Yeah,
and they passed.
Yep.
Thursday Night Football on Amazon was a test, and it passed. That's the future. So, yeah, it's the old football stuff's just not going to be there anymore. Fox will eventually lose the NFC. NBC, ABC, CBS will all eventually lose those contracts, and they'll go to
Prime,
Paramount,
Hulu.
Plus.
Yeah,
Peacock.
Prime, Hulu, Paramount, Peacock, and Netflix.
Yeah,
those are going to be your competitors. Yeah,
that's where you'll start seeing those games. Paramount Plus, I know, is going to be a home of the NFL, especially NFC one day, and that's what we're going to have to, because that's a CBS. That's part of CBS. They all have their tentacles everywhere. So yeah, that's a depressing thought, but that's because the league can get all that money, because you have to subscribe to those networks. That's more money plus advertising revenue. Now you really can make some money on it, and that's what all Goodell. That's all this stuff is. Goodell has been commissioner for so long because he makes the owners a lot of money. He makes more money for them than any other commissioner has done before.
Yep.
And that's why they like him, and the fans hate him, and it's unfortunate. It really is. You look at that draft show now, it's 3 days. When we first started watching the draft, it was Saturday and Sunday. Now it's 3 days, 2 of them in prime time.
For Christ's sake, they have a prime time schedule release show. That they've done the last 3 or 4 years. Before that, the schedule was released. Media outlets like myself would be jumping for joy because all right, that gives us content. We don't even have that anymore. And with our with our connections, we can't even give you guys the accurate schedule leaks, because there's so many fake leaks. And I got news for you. A lot of them come directly from the league, or from league sources. They leak that stuff out, knowing that within a few hours, more often than not, it's proven false. And don't pay any attention to schedule leaks, because you need to tune into the schedule release show.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best not to drop F-bombs, but I'm coming closer and closer.
Think about NFL honors. Just what the world needs, another award show.
Right.
Oscar Oscar ratings have been falling for decades now. Um, the Grammys awards ratings have been falling. Fewer and fewer people are watching these things, and MTV Awards show, all that stuff. So we have NFL honors, and it's a relatively recent thing because I don't remember an NFL honors show when Alvin Kamara won Offensive Rookie of the Year and Patrick Lattimore, I mean Patrick Lattimore, Marshawn Lattimore won Defensive Rookie of the Year. But now it's a huge deal.
Yep.
Best play of the year. You got all these things that come out here, and it kills me because I hate award shows. I hate them. They're miserable. It's just a bunch of people, and they got the red carpet thing and all that stuff going on, and it's just so bad to look at.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how out of touch can we look? Can we make people look? And that's what an award show is to me.
Yep.
But again, it's a ratings generator. It gets people out there to watch football. And you were talking, Bob, about how the league is now 10, 11 months long because of free agency and building up for the draft and all these things. And the league now has stretched the season out because they've got more playoff games. The NFL, the Super Bowl now used to be like the middle of January. It's now getting into the middle of February, a whole month they've added. And once they add an 18th game, and once they start doing some of these other things that they do add 2 bye weeks in because of some of the international games, you'll be looking at nearly March before the season ends.
Yep.
And that'll be just in time for free agency to start. And oh, look, we're going to roll the draft right into that. Oh, look, we're going to have football year round. And that's the goal. That's the goal. Bob, last thing. They've opened up the mini camp, the full mini camp for the Saints, the June 11th through 13th, I think. Yeah, they opened this mini camp up to Saints fans, so people can actually get tickets. It's free, but they use tickets to get an idea of a head count, so they make sure they have enough room for everybody. But yeah, you're going to now be able to see the guys in shorts and shells. That's different than DA. I think DA used to have closed mini camp. He would open up training camp. What kind of thing should we be looking for over the next couple of weeks? Because OTAs are going to start up. I saw Asante Samuel Jr. admitted he has neck surgery.
Yes.
He's hoping to get checked in, get checked out a couple more times before he makes a decision to keep playing or not. What kind of things should we be looking for? And what about some of the players they did sign out of this practice? We talked about the quarterback. What about the receiver?
The receiver. You and I talked all 3 days, and me and Brendan also. Talked for all 3 days of our draft coverage about needing a big receiver, big-bodied wideout. Well, they got one in Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think he'll be a decent addition to the roster. Warrants about as much excitement as Marquez Valdez-Scantling did last year. Similar type of player, not as explosive over the top, but a little bit better over the middle. So I think he'll be a fit in Kellen Moore's offense. But that's the kind of thing to watch. I'm going to be watching the quarterbacks to see how comfortable they look. I'm not going to go gaga over this accurate throw or that accurate throw. I'm going to be watching their footwork and how smoothly they seem to operate, because you mentioned a veteran quarterback. Jordy Haltberg asked me about that this morning. Carson Wentz, Teddy Bridgewater are the two obvious names that come to mind. But I don't think the Saints move for one until after they get a look at these younger guys through the mini camps and through the OTAs, and depending on their comfort level, and the coach's comfort level with them, at that point you might see a move for a veteran quarterback between that June mini camp and the start of training camp. Donovan Peoples-Jones, how comfortable does he look? Does he look like the kind of guy that's going to be able to come in as a big slot, intermediate target guy? If not, then is Amari Cooper still out there? Will he be out there at that point? Will Tyler Boyd? Will Keenan Allen? Maybe you see them go after one of those guys then. Couple of the cornerbacks that are still on the board. You mentioned Asante Samuel, and I actually wrote about Asante. Asante's it's between his neck and his shoulder. It's a nerve condition, and like you said, he revealed this week that he has visited with the Saints, but he's going to have surgery. They drafted that Quincy Riley, the cornerback from Louisville, kid I really like, by the way. Does Quincy Riley look okay? In the 7-on-7s and the 1-on-1 drills with the receivers? If he doesn't, then okay, maybe you keep closer tabs on the Asante Samuel situation, or if not there, you go James Bradbury, somebody like that. It's impossible. It's going to be impossible for you to get a feel for the new lineman, offensive or defensive, in shorts and shells, because there's really no physical contact.
They're not allowed.
Right. So it's going to be kind of a crapshoot with the trenches, but the skill positions and the comfort level of the quarterbacks are what to watch for the most.
Yeah, I was just going to say that for guys like Asante Samuel, guys like Amari Cooper, or any of those other players that you still see out there, veteran players, even the quarterbacks like a Carson Wentz or Teddy Bridgewater, these guys keep themselves in shape.
Yeah.
And they've been around long enough that they can come into a room very late in training camp and pick up the offense pretty quickly, or pick up the defense pretty quickly, because they can just, it's really language they've got to understand. What are the terms they're using for things they've already learned? So their attitude is, we can give these young guys a chance and see how far, like you said, see how comfortable we are with them, how much are they developing, and then wait till the last minute to sign a veteran guy, because we know he'll be ready to come in and do the things we may need him to do in a very short order. So they're not in a big rush to sign any of these people. That's part of the reason why these guys are still out there for this long.
Right.
So I would think that if we saw anything, we may see something in the summertime, June, late July, right before they go to training camp, if they decide to make a move on something. Last thing, and I just remembered this because I just saw Brian Hansen punting. The longest, or one of the oldest Saints players who is still out there from the 2009 squad, Thomas Morstead, was released by the Jets today. Would you like a reunion?
Oh my God, yes. Thomas Morstead, from the moment he left New Orleans, has said, we Thomas Morstead is the anti-Derek Carr socially. He absolutely said, I will always be a New Orleans Saint. He has said it repeatedly, year after year after year. Even with even the 1 year he spent with the Dolphins, and the multiple years he spent with the Jets, he's still very active on Saints Twitter. Follows Saints football games, comments on Saints football games and Saints personnel moves. Congratulating not just teammates, but even Saints players that came along after him. Very active in congratulating him. And Thomas, I know you and he follow each other on social media too.
Yep.
He and I do. I love the guy. I love him. He might not have the leg he once did, but for a team in need of a good personnel move, a good PR move, that'd be one hell of a move. Morstead, excuse me, still has the leg. I'd love to see them bring him back in.
Yeah, we were talking about embracing New Orleans and things like that. Well, he made his home in New Orleans. His kids go to school here. He's out here at Mardi Gras time with his family. I jokingly said when they were talking about Tyler Shough, was talking about what jersey number should I wear based on the numbers that are available. I said, he's thinking about taking 6. I said, well, you better check with Thomas Morstead, make sure that's okay.
Yeah.
Take that number. And Thomas Morstead responded. He saw me tag him in it, and he says, oh, I'm giving him 100% my blessings. Wear that number. That's a good number for you. So
now, if Tommy comes back, I'm taking that 6 from Shough. No offense, Rook, but you wear another number.
Absolutely. I want Shough to wear a double-digit number. That's just how I am. I'd like for him to wear not 11, but he can't get 12 back, but 15, 19. Get it from Blake Groupie or something like that. Get a double-digit number. Don't wear 4. 4's got to go to Neil now.
Yeah,
give Neil number 4 to wear.
But you know me. I want him to give Shough 8.
No, no 8s, no 9s. And they're also talking about should they let Taysom Hill go? I said no, absolutely not. I know it's his last year as a Saints, his last year's Saints contract, but Taysom deserves the goodbye that Drew didn't get. He deserves that. Make your announcement. This is going to be your last year. You're going to retire. He plays in his last game, but it deserves to be full of 70,000 fans out there, and they all get to give him the standing O that he deserves when he walks off that field the last time that Drew deserved, and Drew couldn't get because of the damn pandemic. Do not just release Taysom Hill. You gotta keep him for this last year and let him go out the hero that he is, because he made Saints games fun.
Oh yeah.
And there's another man who did everything right, and I hope Tyler follows in those footsteps. So we're kind of going full circle on the themes for tonight. But yeah, you've got to follow what those guys did to get beloved, like Thomas Morstead, like Drew Brees, like Taysom Hill. That's what does it. So, oh God, no. God, no. We don't need Daniel Jones here. All right, Bob, you have Bayou Blitz coming up this week. I'm sorry, I'm keeping you so late tonight, and I said we weren't going to be on long.
Yeah, we do. We're going at 8 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, 9 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. No guest unless something pops up at the last minute. Because we'll be, it will be, continuing to put the Neosporin on this Derek Carr Band-Aid ripoff thing. So that way this can be the last week. And we're going to talk about that on the Bayou Blitz. So this will be the last week we talk about Derek Carr as a primary subject. And, that above all else, it brings relief to my life. I got to say.
Me too. I didn't hate the guy, but I'm tired of talking about him. So, absolutely. I want to focus on the future now. All right. Thank you guys for sticking with us for so long. Yes, he does. He still lives in New Orleans.
He does.
He made it his home. But thank you guys for sticking with us for so long. We got 19 people been on this tonight that I can see in the chat and everything. So really appreciate you sticking with us.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.